Hello and welcome to the Paul Weller Fan Podcast. I'm Dan Jennings, and here we are, Friday the 25th of July, 2025, and a brand new Paul Weller album, Find El Dorado, released today via Parlophone. I'll never get tired of saying that. A brand new album from Paul Weller. And this one, not just a covers album. This is a reflective, quietly radical project that reinterprets tracks discovered through late night listening, friends' recommendations. And now I'm not yet in that WhatsApp club, but one day. And it's also from Paul crate digging in second-hand record shops, I gather. And these songs now given a home in his own unique voice. He said about this album, these are songs I've carried with me for years. They've taken on new shapes over time, and it now felt like the moment to share them. But here's the thing, Find El Dorado runs deeper than musical admiration. At the end of 2020, you may remember our finale of Desperately Seeking Paul. And in that conversation, Paul told me this project was a way to keep creating without the weight of touring or writing a new album from scratch. He said it's a way of making a record for me to still make music and without any pressure, not to go out and tour it. I just need a year off. And it's an album born of deliberate pause. Paul describes how writing original material consumes him 24/7. He needed space to remain creative without immersing himself in the intensity of songwriting. Saying there's a lot of songs I want to cover anyway, so it's a good way of me doing that, still being creative and making the records, but not thinking about writing. So whilst 2004's Studio 150 was Paul Weller's first covers collection, Find El Dorado is a completely different proposition. He said to me, they don't sound similar in any way whatsoever. Some will be known to some people, but a lot of them are quite obscure. A few sort of old obscure folk songs is how he described it. I was lucky enough to chat to Steve Cradock earlier on the year for the book, and he produced the album from his Devon studio, saying that Paul had the track list mapped out really early on. Steve said he had the songs. They're tracks that people and friends have played him over the years just to turn him onto music, and then he kept those earmarked. He said he wanted to do an acoustic-based covers album just because he thinks it would be nice to have in his canon of albums. Many of Steve's lovely arrangements, those home recordings, acoustic, piano-led arrangements, form the bass tracks of these songs. And the result is deliberately unfussy, intimate, not lo-fi, arranged, but not overly polished. And Steve said, I tried to make it not a demo thing, but just not a posh-sounding record. That was what I thought in my head it would be good to sound like. And this creative pause also aligns with Paul Weller's desire to spend more time with family and to reflect. He said it's really hard to balance the two things. I kind of do all right, but it'd be nice to have a period of time when I don't have that. And he's talking about that creative pressure, right? So the album itself, the album opens with Richie Havens' Handouts In The Rain, reimagined as this beautiful duet with Declan O'Rourke. Declan coming up on the podcast very soon. You'll hear how he ended up on the song. And it's one of those songs that kind of immediately draws us into this haunting juxtaposition, really. You've got these exquisite melodies, but also carrying devastating truths. The lyrics confronting violence, hatred and betrayal, bombing foreign brothers, trampling sisters, teaching children lies. Themes that resonate painfully amid the horrors unfolding in so many places across the world today. Yet that darkness is set against a tender, soulful backdrop, culminating in the unforgettable image of taking handouts in the rain. You've seen this on the news recently, right? Opening with that track establishes the album's moral courage, I feel, refusing to turn away from injustice or the shared human cost of conflict, reminding us that beneath the surface beauty lies a reckoning with shame, suffering, and the consequences of hatred. What an album opener. Following that, we get Bobby Charles's Small Town Talk. I was lucky enough to be in the studio at Black Barn when Steve Cradock put down bass on this song. It stuck in my head for days, if not months afterwards. And it's turned almost into a dub version. It's got this really cool groove, and it's one of the many album highlights for me really early on. Brian Prothero, you'll know he's been on the podcast, and Pinball is reimagined. You've got Jacko Peake's haunting saxophone unfolding like another intimate fragment of Paul Weller's inner map. It's subtle, it's reflected. That song's richly textured. El Dorado by Eamon Friel, featuring Noel Gallagher's shimmering guitar, adding a layer of understated grandeur. While Seckou Keita's Cora on Journey infuses the album with an ethereal lightness, weaving delicate threads of sound that balance the weightier themes with these beautiful moments of transcendence. Early single, or was it an impact track? The Bee Gees' I Started a Joke, reimagined with Baroque dreamy strings arranged by Hannah Peel. You've got Ray Davies's Nobody's Fool, known to some of you as the theme from Budgie. given dignified melancholy on the album. Other selections range from White Line Fever to Lordy Roller. Tracks that are obscure, they're diverse, we're unafraid here. One track I've seen really called out on social media already this morning, adding to this reflective tapestry, is When You Are a King. Originally by White Plains, 1971, it's this sweet-sounding yet biting commentary on inherited privilege and unearned power, describing a scruffy boy who's destined to become king while never having to lift a finger. It kind of feels timely, right? I've seen this in the Uncut magazine article with Paul in recent weeks, in the wake of King Charles's coronation, reminding us that people are still handed thrones, literal or metaphorical, simply by birth. Also among these carefully chosen songs is Daltry Street. I keep seeing people saying this is a P.P. Arnold song. And yes, it is, but P.P. Arnold covered it. This is written by one of Paul's current bandmates, Jake Fletcher. And Pat Arnold's version is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but so is the original. This is a stark reflection on lost hope, longing for connection, where memories of neighbours and lovers blur into a haunting refrain of always being lost, not found. Other standout tracks, One Last Cold Kiss, adding further emotional gravity. Originally written for Mountain, later recorded by Christy Moore, whose version framed it as a lament steeped in Irish folk sorrow. This song telling the tale of two island swans mated for life until a hunter's arrow pierces the female's heart, leaving her mate desolate, refusing any other bride. It's this haunting imagery of love, loyalty, and grief. It deepens the album's themes of loss and moral reckoning. Again, juxtapositioning that tender beauty with the horror of violence and the pain of absence. One other song, when I listen to it, takes me back to Black Barn. I was lucky enough to get a little play of this from Steve Cradock, and I'll always regret the moment afterwards where I said, wow, that's incredible. That sounds like a Paul Weller song. And I think he looked at me a bit blankly. Of course it's a Paul Weller song. Paul Weller's singing it. What I kind of meant was I felt like Paul could have written those lyrics. Never the Same, Lal Waterson's song. This stark, fragmented imagery of Johnny and Rosemary drowning in rain while adults look away with indifference. And it finds new life in Paul's voice. I think that's what I was touching on really when I made that comment. His interpretation deepening the album's exploration of irreversible loss and moral failure with that haunting refrain, "We'll never be the same again," echoing as both a lament and a warning. A reminder that beauty, innocence and hope can be crushed by neglect in a world that right now is often too willing to look away. We get Robert Plant's soulful voice and harmonica on Clive's song, adding raw emotional depth to lyrics about outrunning the blues, masking pain with fleeting moments of feeling so fine while knowing despair still waits underneath. So for me, at its core, Find El Dorado is about listening. These are songs that have spoken to Paul Weller at different times, some of them shaking his musical landscape over decades, others discovered only recently, but clearly resonating with him deeply. It's like a Weller mixtape with him singing the songs, and he's made something really meaningful without forcing it. This is an album that feels like an artist stopping to breathe, take stock, and share music that matters to him within the world that we are in right now. I hope you've enjoyed these little thoughts on the album. Obviously, Find El Dorado is just a glimpse into Paul Weller's nearly 5-decade journey. I worked out this is about 0.65% of my upcoming oral history, Dancing Through the Fire, which is published on the 11th of September. But we do cover it. So if you were thinking, hold on, there's a new Paul Weller album out, his book's already out of date. No, it's all covered in there with Steve, with Paul, with Pete Pathides and Tony Harlow, the big boss of Warner, where Paul is back on Parlophone for this album. The brand new album, Find El Dorado, is available now. Get stuck in and spread the word on social media. Episodes to come on this podcast from people on the album. Declan O'Rourke is coming up, very special episode, as is Amelia Coburn. I've been wanting to talk for her for ages. So make sure you follow, you subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Amazon and more. PaulWellerFanPodcast.com. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.